And now I'd like to invite onto the stage Mr. Umakant Soni and Dasil Hernandez. And Umakant is, of course, from Art Park. You're the co-founder of Art Park, the biggest AI and robotics park in India, in Bangalore. And I think you will tell us a little bit about that. And Dasil, you're with Nagaro. You are in charge of the AI for the whole European operations. So fantastic that you could fly in for this today. And then after that, Umakant is going to give a much more visionary talk also about where is India at 100, a 30 trillion economy. Yeah. So keep listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanju. And fantastic to be here. She just flown in, and even I flew in yesterday night. Would you like to take a seat?
Close. I come from Gothenburg, so it was not that far away. So I can tell you.
Yeah, have a seat. Please. And so very quickly, as we are all, Indians are very innovative in nature. So we also innovated on this panel. And we decided that we were supposed to have a fireside chat to start with, but we said that she's focusing on such an important topic about how enterprises should adopt to AI, and I think that's very relevant to what we were talking in the later panels as well. So we have merged the panels.
Yes.
So that's why we are very innovative. Maybe too innovative. But we'd like to give you a quick glimpse of how India is changing and how India is looking at itself at 2047. And this is, of course, it comes from a perspective because we just completed 75 years of very messy, but thankfully working to some extent democracy. And it was so great to hear that you also have a government now. So very quickly, my background. I have spent last 21 years in the industry, last 12 years as in AI space, first as an entrepreneur, then as an investor. I set up the first AI-focused venture fund in India, invested in around 14 companies. One of them is becoming a unicorn, and some more are on the way. But we realized that we don't have the depth in the ecosystem, so we set up Art Park, AI and Robotics Technology Park, which is bringing India into this massive, what we call as AI decade. And this is part of a $500 million of investment that Government of India is making in building up AI research and innovation ecosystem. So earlier we were producing talent, but now the whole idea is to also convert the talent, combine it with research, and convert into products and companies. So I'll just start with a very quick introduction, maybe a video to give you a perspective on this.
Where the mind is led forward by thee, into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Very rarely have a few words set into motion a grand destiny, inspiring generations to pursue the inconceivable, persevere hardships, and rising in triumph, instilling an imperishable passion, making a formidable, teeming with creativity, and unrelentingly determined India. And now, India thrives. The largest digital identity in the world, leading the world in the digital payment revolution. An India where dreams are encouraged as they create the map for the road ahead, where knowledge isn't dismissed, instead valued, shared, utilized for discovery and advancement, and paid forward, where solutions no longer surrender to distance, and chance and risk are replaced by hope and will. An India where every tomorrow is an infinite possibility. 15+ startups are building the future of India. STEMpedia, Advanced Air Mobility, CD Space, Astrome, General Aeronautics, X-Ray Setu. Let's join hands and build a future where healthcare is for all, where our children can unlock their true potential, where mobility empowers. Celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav with Made in India startups. If you are one of those who are building the future of India 2047, then let's start up at Art Park and embrace the vision of India as a global technology leader.
So, very quick perspective on where India started and in the last 75 years where we have reached. And it is very important to understand this speed of change because the 100+ unicorns that India is producing, it's not just that these are startups, but these are digital, most of them actually are digital unicorns. That means that they are digitizing India at a furious pace because they are the ones which are taking the innovation and making it big. It's not the large legacy companies, but these startups, and they're growing so fast. And because they're growing so fast, they are actually changing the whole ecosystem at that speed. And it started with payments. We are doing 2.6 times the number of mobile payments than China is today. And you can see, because payment is one of the big friction points. Other friction point, of course, is mobility. And I will have my friend here talk about that in a bit more detail. But here is a perspective which this briefly talked about, that India will be one of the 2 top world center of tech innovations. And this is, it has to be understood quite clearly because what we are actually having here is that India has the largest demographic potential. Right now, we have 900 million plus people in the age group 15 to 64, which is defined as the working or productive age. And it is meeting with what we call as the exponential growth of computing. And couple it with the 100 unicorns which are producing this and training this innovation talent. And you have something which could become remarkably very different in very short amount of time. So this rate of change is harder to imagine sitting here in Stockholm and Sweden. So I would invite all of you. We actually just hosted a delegation from Sweden's industry, all thanks to SIBC. And we were able to show them a glimpse of what actually is changing. But I invite all of you to come down to India, experience it, because that will actually prepare you for the kind of mental map that you might need to redraw as we start to go towards the next 25 years. There are 3 major areas that we are looking at it as from an Indian perspective, which will actually allow for this inclusive growth to happen. One is what we call as digital and physical mobility. And it is very important because if you think from that perspective that we have 900 million people, then we need to make, we need to bring either work to those people or we need to enable them to go to work somewhere. So the mobility is a massive, massive challenge in India because we are talking about 1.36 billion, which will go up to 1.5 billion by 2030. So it's a massive challenge, whichever way you make it move. Second is intelligent healthcare. And we realize, and I think Kamal talked about in the morning, vaccinating people at such a scale, we realized that the only way to go at that scale was to go digital. Not digital after transformation, but digital first. So you have to think digital first, AI first. And that is something that we will actually also talk about a little later in the day as well. And the third one was learning for AI age. We have 300 million young kids. How do we transform their minds? And that's a big problem that we are working and grappling with. And the National Education Policy 2020 exactly talks about that. So the digital and physical mobility that I talked about, right? And we are looking at leapfrog solutions. There is no way we can scale solutions linearly in India. We are 1.36 billion people. So we are talking about close to 850 million people living in rural areas where 4G never reached them, right? So how do we bring a leapfrog 5G connectivity to them? Because then it could be possible that somebody who could be sitting in one of the villages in India could be driving a truck in maybe Stockholm or maybe Sweden, somewhere. And that's the kind of leapfrog perspective that we are talking about. We realize that smart cities are very difficult in India because in India, cities have been grown organically, right? We have Banaras, which is like 5,000 years old. How do you transform that into a smart city? Very difficult. So we have to think about a new concept. We call it smart clusters, where instead of trying to bring or convert them into smart cities, we need to bring digital and physical connectivity, maybe through air, to them. And this is an interesting perspective that I wanted to show, one of the moonshots that we've been thinking and imagining about. That'll give you a perspective of that. This, of course, talks about a very critical use case.
Do you know that 42,000 deaths occur in India in a day because the necessary health service couldn't reach every doorstep within 60 minutes? This is the golden hour. Could an autonomous air ambulance reach victims faster and help save them when every second counts? Art Park proposes the Aero 108, an unmanned flying ambulance that could save millions of lives. It can fly 2 patients, accompanied by a humanoid if required. It is equipped with state-of-the-art instruments and it can carry out autonomous operations. It also has an interactive technology that connects patients and medical professionals, even when separated by vast distances. The Aero 108s are monitored by control center hubs located in various parts of the country. These hubs route the nearest stationed Aero 108 to the location of the emergency. IoT sensors in smart vehicles and smart infrastructure can also signal the Aero 108 in case of an accident. Imagine a situation where a train derails in an isolated area. Any of the survivors can immediately call the helpline number and a fleet of Aero 108 will be there for the rescue. The Aero 108, with its cutting-edge sensors, analyzes the layout of the area and lands safely. The humanoid paramedics act as mobile medical scanners for the medical experts in the trauma center. Smart stretchers also double up as active sensors to analyze the patient's condition. The humanoid paramedic can deliver emergency first aid under constant supervision by the doctor in the trauma center. With the next generation of medical automation tools, the Aero 108 can also be used as a flying ICU unit. The Aero 108 can also help the disaster management team perform a rescue operation by evacuating the injured, can reach rural and remote areas quicker than any other form of assistance, can be a great aid during a natural crisis. Just like other futuristic technologies, the Aero 108 comes with its own challenges. Aero 108 vehicle design and engineering to safely evacuate a patient under harsh environmental conditions is a major challenge. Robotics and automation technologies to reach the patient, stabilize them and load them onto the vehicle is a daunting challenge. Very advanced AI and robotics technologies will need to be developed to enable a safe and robust solution that will work well under harsh terrain and difficult conditions. We certainly need a giant leap in technology before our dream of Aero 108 can be fully realized. Nevertheless, this could be the next step to the future. In 10 years, if the Aero 108 is developed, we will be able to save millions of people, not only in India, but around the world. Thank you. See you in the future.
So this is a challenge that we've actually thrown out, and we are seeking collaborators from around the globe. But this just gives you a glimpse of the leapfrogging that we need to do in India. And I live in a very large city called Bangalore, where 18 kilometer per hour is the average speed. And I see so many times that even in a city like Bangalore, patients struggle to reach ambulances. I mean, in fact, last week itself, I found one of the such ambulance struggled to get past the traffic. So we have to think about solving three-dimensional problems in three-dimensional ways. We are living in high rises, so the two-dimensional roads won't work. We need to build roads in the sky. So it's a very different perspective of looking at things, that when you're looking at innovation at scale, you have to think very differently. And we realize that, when we talk about ambulances, but they could be the similar ones for transporting things, goods. We still don't have 40% of villages in India don't have all-weather connectivity. And we realize that there is a reason for it. Maybe we need to look at it from different perspective altogether. We need to think aerial. In healthcare, we are looking to transform our healthcare ecosystem. It's difficult to imagine this. In Sweden, you have hospital at every probably 2 or 3 kilometers. So the current model is primary, secondary, tertiary, and we see that the tertiary is where people focus, right? But instead of that, if we can just figure out a model where we could actually have 80% of the patients treated at home, and by looking at prevention, by looking at early diagnosis, mobile-driven diagnosis, maybe the new advanced sensors that are becoming cheap, it could completely revamp the ecosystem. We tried out an experiment called Access Setu when COVID hit. We had no other option. We had 850 million people which were living in rural areas.
65% of the 1.3
we had only
billion
1,000
population
radiologists to look
lives
after
in
them.
rural areas. Rural India has only one radiologist for every million Indians. COVID-19 has rattled our health infrastructure like never before. RT-PCR tests are often delayed in rural India. X-rays can be a faster way to identify COVID and plan early intervention. Introducing X-Ray Setu, quick chest X-ray interpretation for doctors via WhatsApp. Developed by the AI researchers from ArtPark, Niramai Health and IISc. X-Ray Setu, bridging the gap between accessibility and technology. How does it work? Step 1. A doctor clicks the picture
So you
of
just take a
X-ray
picture,
image using her or his mobile
send
phone.
it to us
Step
on
2.
WhatsApp.
The doctor then shares this picture on WhatsApp with X-Ray Setu at 804-616-3838.
And we give you the result in like less than 5 minutes. And we realize that it doesn't have to be only for COVID. We are now adopting it for TB. We think that it can be adopted for many things where you can actually send the image through mobile, and the doctor doesn't have to be co-located with the patient at all, or specialist doesn't have to be co-located. And it could be, in fact, one of the suggestions we got, and by the way, this got viral, and it got used not just in India, but across 28 countries. We discovered that there are 14 countries in Africa which have 0 radiologists in the entire country. And we realized that there is a huge amount of innovation that India can produce, which can go to some of these large areas. So the third area that we are looking to innovate on and want to work with the whole world on that is the area of education and learning.
By the year 2030, 7.5 billion connected humans will join hands with 30 billion intelligent connected machines in the age of the AI-driven experience economy. Our learning systems are built for the industrial age of rote learning and will force our kids to arrive in this AI age unprepared and unable to communicate or work together with machines. While we are investing billions of dollars in improving machine learning, we haven't put the same deep thought into improving human learning systems, which is rather unfortunate. Consider this. Today, AI is recognizing images better than the human eye, listening better, and also even playing better chess and other things. Steve Jobs said that the computer is the bicycle for the mind. AI is going to be the rocket for the mind. Just like the way we learn languages to talk with other human beings, our kids need to learn the language of machines to talk, imagine, and innovate along with them by fundamentally rethinking our traditional classrooms with next-gen hybrid learning systems for self-learning, peer learning, and learning by doing. At Ekalavya Learning Incubator for NAP 2020, we are trying to leverage our cultural context and rich heritage to derive an empathetic learning environment for AI age to help kids create, innovate, and discover within them what makes us all uniquely human.
So this is a fundamental shift that we see that we all have to make, and I think that is where collaboration or bridge between India and Sweden becomes really, really interesting, because we are going to go with this AI revolution. The first early versions, some of the companies that I invested in, the AI was enhancing what you have, right? The natural abilities of what you have, so you become like superhuman. The second wave is actually, changing the whole environment by allowing you to profile yourself better and connect to other opportunities. So that's going to get you more jobs, more opportunities to express yourself. The third shift is a big shift, and it's going to be a societal shift where we will not work for money. We are going to work because we want to express something that we have in ourselves. And it's going to be a big shift because our societies are not prepared for it, our businesses are not prepared for it. And I think it's important when we make that shift from job to work, we are all able to, because today we derive a lot of identity from our work. So if we make that shift where we may no longer be working for money, but working to express ourselves, it will mean a different kind of systems that we would have to adopt, not just in learning and education, but also in healthcare, in terms of how it becomes accessible to everyone. So there is nothing like a birth lottery, but instead everybody actually has a window to an inclusive growth in future. So this is an interesting movie. If you haven't seen it, I would strongly advocate that you should check it out. It's Blade Runner 2049. It talks about the choices that we are making today and what it could lead to in future.